All right, so let's get right into it today. We've got a bunch of articles here all about the latest in tech and business. And looking at these headlines, one thing that really sticks out is all the AI funding and some pretty major acquisitions happening. What are your first thoughts on all of this?
Yeah, it really does seem like there's a lot of movement, even with all this talk of a tech slowdown. Investors are putting a lot of money into certain companies and technologies, and I think that says a lot about where they think things are going.
Exactly. And speaking of putting money down, let's talk about this AI gold rush that seems to be going on. We've got Sura, this UK-based health tech company. They just got a whopping 122 million POSIN to boost their AI-powered home healthcare solutions. And then on the other side of the world, there's the Awareness Company. It's a South African startup, and they just snagged $1.6 million to use AI for sustainability insights. So much for a slowdown, right?
That's a good point. And what's really interesting is that it's not just about how much money is going into AI, but it's about all the different ways it's being used. Think about it. Healthcare and sustainability are totally different fields, but AI is proving to be a powerful tool in both.
Okay, so AI is definitely a hot topic right now. But why? What's driving this huge interest? And what does it tell us about where these industries are going? I mean, is it just hype or is there something real behind it?
Honestly, I think it's a little bit of both. Like with any new technology, there's always some hype. But underneath all that, there's real potential for AI to change and even completely revolutionize a ton of sectors. Take healthcare, for example. Say wrongly. Getting all that funding suggests that we're moving towards more AI-driven home care, which could be a much better way to meet the needs of an aging population.
That makes sense. So it's not just about cool tech, it's about solving real-world problems. But wait, 122 million for home healthcare? That's a lot of money to bet on algorithms and sensors. What makes investors so confident that AI can really deliver on these promises?
I think it comes down to AI's potential to do things that were basically impossible before. Imagine personalized care plans that instantly adjust to a patient's changing needs, or predictive analytics that can spot health risks before they even show up. That's the kind of potential that gets investors excited.
Okay, I'm starting to see what you mean.
Yeah.
But what about the awareness company using AI for sustainability? That seems like a whole other thing. How can AI actually help companies be more sustainable?
This is where AI's ability to analyze huge amounts of data really shines. AI algorithms can go through mountains of information about a company's operations, everything from energy consumption to their whole supply chain logistics, and pinpoint exactly where they can reduce their environmental impact.
So it's kind of like having an AI consultant on your shoulder constantly whispering tips on how to be more eco-friendly.
Exactly. And that's just the beginning. AI can be used to optimize renewable energy production, monitor deforestation, and even develop new materials that are much better for the environment.
Wow, that's incredible. It sounds like AI could have a massive role in fighting the climate crisis.
Absolutely. It's not a magic solution, of course, but it's a powerful tool that can help us move towards a more sustainable future.
Okay, so AI is making huge waves in healthcare and sustainability, but it's not the only tech story grabbing headlines. We've also got Signum, this crypto-focused bank based in Switzerland and Singapore. They just hit unicorn status after raising $58 million. For those who don't know, unicorn means they've reached a billion-dollar valuation. That's a pretty big deal, right?
It is, especially with all the ups and downs in the crypto market lately. Reaching unicorn status in this climate tells me that investors are still really positive about the long-term potential of crypto and blockchain technology, even with all the extra scrutiny.
So is this a sign that crypto is finally going mainstream, or are we still in the early adopter phase?
I'd say it's probably somewhere in between. On one hand, you see more institutional investors starting to test the waters with crypto, and companies like Signum are building a bridge between the traditional financial world and the world of digital assets.
But on the other hand,
On the other hand, there is still some big regulatory hurdles to overcome, and the market itself is still pretty volatile. I think it's important to avoid getting caught up in the hype and remember that crypto is still a relatively new and constantly changing asset class.
that's a good point. So Signum's success is definitely noteworthy, but it doesn't necessarily mean that Bitcoin is about to replace the dollar anytime soon.
Exactly. It's all about keeping things in perspective.
Speaking of perspective, let's switch gears for a minute and talk about a story that might seem a little more niche, but it's equally interesting. We've got Vertical Compute, a Belgian semiconductor startup. They just secured a cool 20 million only 3 months after launching. They're all about solving memory limitations in AI chips, which might sound super technical, but it's actually a major roadblock holding back AI development.
Mhm.
Can you break down why this is such a big deal?
You're absolutely right. This is huge.
Yeah.
As AI models get more complex and need more and more data, the memory limits of current chips are becoming a serious problem. You see, to train these powerful AI models, you need massive amounts of data to be easily accessible. Imagine trying to bake a cake with all your ingredients scattered across town. It just doesn't work very well.
Okay, I think I'm getting the picture. So vertical compute is basically creating a bigger kitchen for AI to do its thing.
That's a great analogy, and it's really impressive that they've gotten so much funding so early on. It shows that investors understand how important specialized hardware is for the future of AI.
So even though most people might not get the details of semiconductor technology, it's clear that this is a crucial piece of the AI puzzle.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool to see a startup taking on such a fundamental challenge.
Absolutely. And it highlights a key takeaway from today's deep dive. Sometimes the most impactful innovations are happening behind the scenes in the little details that most people don't even think about.
That's a great point. It's easy to get caught up in the flashy headlines, but it's often the less glamorous behind-the-scenes stuff that really pushes technology forward.
Yeah, it's like the plumbing of the digital world. You need it, but you don't really think about it much.
Exactly. Okay, so we've talked about a lot AI's impact on healthcare and sustainability, the billion-dollar unicorn in the crypto world, and even gotten into the complicated world of semiconductors. Of all this, what stands out to you as the most important development?
It's hard to pick just one, but I think Sarah getting that huge funding for AI in healthcare is really significant. The potential to make things better for patients, increase efficiency, and lower healthcare costs is huge.
It's a bold statement. What makes you so sure that AI will be that transformative in healthcare specifically? I mean, we've all seen those sci-fi movies where robots take over the hospital. Not exactly reassuring.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. But the reality is that AI in healthcare isn't about replacing doctors and nurses. It's more about giving them better tools and information. Imagine a world where AI can analyze medical images more accurately than humans, so doctors can spend more time with their patients. Or think about AI-powered virtual assistants that can answer basic health questions and give personalized health advice.
Okay, that sounds a lot less like a scary sci-fi movie and more like a genuinely helpful step forward. But even with these positive applications, are there any ethical concerns we should be thinking about as AI becomes a bigger part of healthcare?
Definitely data privacy is a big one, as is the potential for bias in algorithms.
Yeah.
We have to make sure that AI systems are developed and used in a way that's fair, transparent, and accountable.
So it's not just about the technology itself, it's about using it responsibly and ethically.
Exactly. And that requires constant discussion and collaboration between the people developing the technology, healthcare professionals, policymakers, and the public.
Now, before we move on, I wanted to go back to something you mentioned earlier about AI's potential to address the growing needs of an aging population. Can you talk a bit more about that?
Of course. As the world's population gets older, we're going to face a shortage of healthcare workers and rising costs. AI can help fill that gap by automating tasks, providing personalized care, and allowing doctors to monitor patients remotely. For example, AI-powered robots could help with things like medication management and physical therapy, and virtual assistants could provide companionship and mental stimulation for seniors who live alone.
Wow, that's really interesting. It sounds like AI could be key to creating a more sustainable and fair healthcare system for everyone.
I think so, but again, we have to approach these developments carefully and think about the ethical implications.
All right, so we've established that AI is set to transform healthcare, but it's not stopping there. It seems like every industry is buzzing about AI's potential. What other sectors do you see being significantly impacted in the near future?
I think we'll see AI making major inroads in education, finance, transportation, and manufacturing. In education, it could personalize learning experiences, give real-time feedback, and handle administrative tasks, so teachers have more time for meaningful interactions with students.
That sounds pretty revolutionary. What about finance?
Finance is already using AI for things like fraud detection, risk assessment, and algorithmic trading. In the future, we might see AI-powered financial advisors giving personalized investment advice and helping people manage their money more effectively.
So AI could potentially make financial expertise available to everyone, which is pretty cool. What about transportation and manufacturing?
Transportation is on the verge of a major shift with self-driving vehicles. AI will be essential for making those cars and trucks safe and reliable. And in manufacturing, AI is already being used to optimize production processes, improve quality control, and even design new products.
It sounds like AI is finding its way into every part of our lives. Is there anywhere it won't have an impact?
That's a great question. I think One area where AI's impact will be less direct is in fields that need creativity, empathy, and complex human interaction. Like AI can create art or music, but it's unlikely to replace human artists and musicians who bring their own unique perspectives and emotions to their work.
Okay, so there's still hope for us creative types. But even with those exceptions, it's clear that AI is going to have a huge impact on the world we know.
Yeah,
And as we talked about before, it's not just about the technology itself, it's about how we use it.
exactly. We need to make sure that AI is developed and used in a way that benefits everyone, not just a select few.
Speaking of potential downsides, let's get back to the crypto world for a minute.
Guys,
While Signum reaching unicorn status is definitely good news for the industry, you mentioned earlier that there's still some risks and challenges with crypto. Can you talk more about those?
sure, one of the biggest concerns is the lack of regulation, which can make the crypto market vulnerable to scams and manipulation.
So it's a bit of a wild west out there.
In some ways, yeah. And that can be both exciting and risky. Another challenge is how volatile cryptocurrencies are. We've seen huge price swings over the past few years, which makes it hard for businesses and individuals to use crypto for everyday transactions.
So while there's a lot of potential, there's also a lot of uncertainty and risk involved.
Exactly. Like with any new technology, investors and individuals need to do their research, understand how it works, and figure out how much risk they're comfortable with before jumping into the crypto world.
Sound advice. But even with the risks, it's hard not to be intrigued by blockchain technology's potential to disrupt traditional industries and create new opportunities. What are some of the most promising applications of blockchain outside of cryptocurrency?
Blockchain has the potential to completely change supply chain management by making it more transparent and efficient. It could also be used to create secure voting systems that can't be tampered with, streamline healthcare record keeping, and even verify the authenticity of digital art and other collectibles.
Wow, it sounds like blockchain could have a huge impact on so many different areas. Do you think it has the potential to be as transformative as AI?
That's tough to say. Both technologies have the power to disrupt industries and change the way we live and work, but they work in different ways and address different needs. AI is about making machines smarter, while blockchain is about creating secure and transparent systems of record.
So they're both powerful tools, but they have different strengths and uses.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how they continue to evolve and overlap in the years to come.
Absolutely. And I think the most exciting things will happen when these technologies come together, where AI and blockchain can be combined to create totally new solutions and possibilities.
All right, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to circle back to something we talked about earlier, the rise of niche markets and specialized startups like vertical compute. What does this trend tell us about the future of the tech industry?
I think it points to a shift away from one-size-fits-all solutions and towards a more fragmented landscape with specialized companies focusing on solving very specific problems.
So instead of a few tech giants running the show, we might see a more diverse ecosystem of smaller, more adaptable companies driving innovation.
Exactly. And that could lead to a more competitive and dynamic tech industry with more opportunities for entrepreneurship and niche innovation.
So it's not just about the big players anymore. It's about finding your niche and becoming the best at it. I like that. It seems like it's becoming easier to get into the tech world. You don't need to be a giant corporation to make a big impact. You can start small and focus on solving one specific problem really well.
That's a key takeaway from today's deep dive. The tech landscape is constantly changing, and the companies that can adapt quickly will be the ones that succeed in this dynamic environment.
And speaking of adapting, the acquisition of FanTribe Inc. by Triton International Corp. highlights how important it is to be able to pivot and take advantage of new opportunities.
Definitely. In the fast-paced world of tech, mergers and acquisitions happen all the time. Startups have to be prepared for the possibility of being acquired. And bigger companies need to be smart about their acquisitions, making sure they're acquiring companies that fit with their existing strengths and fill gaps in their portfolios.
It's like a never-ending game of chess, with companies making strategic moves to stay ahead of the game. But it's not just about competition, it's also about collaboration. We see that in the growth of markets like container orchestration and GDPR consulting services.
Those are great examples. Container orchestration helps companies manage complex IT infrastructure, making it easier to roll out and scale applications across multiple cloud environments. And GDPR consulting services help businesses follow data privacy regulations, which is becoming more and more important in a world where data is so valuable.
So we have competition, A&D collaboration shaping the tech landscape. It's a pretty interesting mix.
It is. And it's that dynamic interplay that drives innovation and pushes the boundaries of what's possible.
Okay, we've covered a lot today. From AI changing healthcare and sustainability to the ups and downs of crypto and the rise of niche markets, the tech world is full of action and innovation. But before we jump into the last part of our conversation, I want to step back for a second and ask you this. What does all of this tell us about the bigger picture? Where is the tech industry going, and what does it mean for us as individuals and as a society?
That's a big question, isn't it? I think we're at a really important point in history where technology is rapidly changing every part of our lives. We're seeing incredible progress in AI, blockchain, and biotechnology, but we're also wrestling with the ethical side of these technologies and what they could mean for jobs, privacy, and even our sense of being human.
That's kind of a double-edged sword, isn't it?
Yeah.
Exciting and a little scary at the same time.
Exactly. But I'm optimistic that we can use the power of technology for good to create a future that's more sustainable, fair, and fulfilling for everyone. It means we need to have thoughtful conversations, collaborate across different fields, and put human values first when we develop and use new technologies.
That's a hopeful message to end on. So as we head into the last part of our deep dive, let's keep that in mind. Technology is powerful, but it's up to us to use it wisely and build a future we can all be proud of. All right, so we've talked about AI's impact on things like healthcare and sustainability. We saw that big crypto unicorn deal and even dove into the world of semiconductors. But now let's switch gears and look at the other big story from today's article's acquisitions. Specifically, the acquisition of FanTribe Inc. by Triton International Corp. FanTribe is that social media platform for athletes and creators. And this move by Triton tells us a lot about what's happening in the social media world right now.
It definitely does. We've been seeing a lot of these consolidations lately where big companies are buying up smaller, more innovative platforms. In this case, Triton, which is a huge media company, is probably trying to get their hands on FanTribe's niche audience, those athletes and creators, to broaden their reach and add some variety to their portfolio.
So it's a strategic move for both sides. FanTribe gets the resources and support of a major player, and Triton gets access to a whole new group of engaged users. But what does this mean for the creators and athletes who are using FanTribe as their main platform?
That's the big question, isn't it? On one hand, this could bring more stability and resources to FanTribe, which could lead to improvements on the platform and new opportunities for its users. But on the other hand, there's always the risk that FanTribe loses its unique identity and culture as it gets absorbed into a bigger corporate machine.
So it's a bit of a gamble for the creators and athletes. They might reach a larger audience and get more resources, but they also risk losing some of the independence and community that made them choose FanTribe in the first place. It's a tough decision.
Exactly. And this kind of dilemma shows us a bigger trend that's happening across the whole tech industry. As platforms get bigger and start merging, it's getting harder and harder for the smaller guys to compete. And while acquisitions can sometimes be good for users because they get more resources and a wider reach, they can also stifle competition and lead to a less diverse and innovative landscape.
It's a complicated issue with no easy answers, but I think it's really important for users to understand these dynamics and to support platforms that put their needs and values first. Speaking of user needs, one area that's been getting a lot of buzz is data privacy. We saw a bunch of articles about the growth of the GDPR consulting services market, which seems to mean that businesses are taking data privacy a lot more seriously these days.
Absolutely. With all the high-profile data breaches and growing concerns about how personal information is being used, businesses are finally realizing that protecting user data isn't just a legal requirement, it's crucial for their business too.
So it's not just about avoiding fines, it's about building trust with customers and protecting their reputation.
Exactly. And the GDPR, with its strict rules and big penalties, has forced companies to take a hard look at how they handle data and invest in solutions that make sure they're following the rules. This has created a huge market for GDPR consulting services because businesses need help understanding and following these complex regulations.
It's interesting how regulations can actually spark innovation and create whole new markets.
And speaking of innovation, we also saw quite a few articles about the container orchestration market. I'll admit this one went over my head a bit.
Okay.
Can you explain what container orchestration is and why it's becoming so important?
Sure. To put it simply, container orchestration is like air traffic control for software applications. It helps companies manage and automate how applications are deployed, scaled, and networked when they're packaged in containers. Think of containers like self-contained boxes of software that can run anywhere from a developer's laptop to a massive data center in the cloud. Okay, that makes sense. So instead of having to manage all these different applications manually, container orchestration tools do it automatically, making it much easier for companies to develop and roll out software on a large scale.
Exactly. And with more and more companies moving their applications to the cloud container, Orchestration is becoming essential for managing the complexity of these spread out systems.
So it's another one of those behind-the-scenes technologies that's quietly changing how software is developed and deployed. It might not be as flashy as AI or blockchain, but it's just as crucial for powering the digital economy.
Absolutely. And it really shows how connected everything is in the tech world. All these different technologies and trends are influencing and shaping each other, creating a constantly changing ecosystem.
Well said. So as we wrap up today's deep dive, I think we've uncovered a lot of important insights about where the tech industry is and where it's going. We saw how AI is transforming things like healthcare and sustainability. We checked in on the world of crypto and explored those acquisitions and niche markets popping up. And through all of this, we've seen why responsible innovation, ethical considerations, and focusing on what users need are so important.
I completely agree. It's a really exciting time to be following what's happening in tech, but it's also a time for us to think critically and get involved. As technology keeps advancing faster than ever, it's crucial for us to stay informed, be part of the conversation, and help shape a future where technology helps humanity and not the other way around.
It's a great note to end on. So as you keep exploring this ever-changing tech world, remember to stay curious, stay informed, and stay engaged.
Uh,
And most importantly, don't be afraid to ask questions and challenge assumptions, because the future of technology isn't set in stone. It's something we create together.